So I was single-handing from Galaxidi to Patra. For whatever reason, on the maps, on Google Maps, it says Patras, Greece, but every Greek I've ever met pronounces it Patra. With a pit stop on the island of Trizonia, I enjoy single-handing. It's more difficult, for sure, but I like the responsibility and I enjoy the challenge of figuring out how to do everything by myself. Before we really get into this video, be sure to hit that subscribe button so that you can see more videos like this one. I did the first sail to Trizonia. Good sailing, nice. Leaving, wind was coming out of the north-northwest. It was between close reaching and beam reaching. Flat seas with 20 plus knots of wind makes for really fun sailing. Galaxidi to Trizonia was 20.6 nautical miles, and that took almost 5 hours. Trizonia to Patra was only 22 nautical miles, but it took me 6 hours because of a steering failure. Steering cable just broke, so using Autopilot, the engine, to hopefully keep us off the shore here. There's what's called a steering quadrant, and that's basically a disc that attaches to the rudder shaft. From that, you have two cables that run around the quadrant up through a gear, and that gear is attached to the steering wheel. You can see one of those stainless steel cables just snapped, just broke.
Yes, I'm aware we're off course.
The way I was sailing was there was kind of this peninsula that I was going to kind of cut real close by. The boat was sailing directly towards this landmass. What I learned from my friend Petros, who's Greek, Petros asked me, what do you do if your steering breaks? And I said, well, you grab your emergency tiller and you start steering with your tiller. He's like, no, turn on Autopilot. Autopilot is connected directly to the quadrant and does not use cables, and so you just steer with your Autopilot.
Okay. So
there's something wrong with the transmission. I mean, it sounds like something's wrapped around the propeller. Don't have steering. And the sails are down, and now we're drifting away from land, so I've got time to think about this. Because I furled in the genoa so fast, I did not realize that the port genoa sheet had fallen in the water, and so then that got wrapped around the propeller. First time I ever got a genoa sheet tangled up in the fin prop. I had about 6 miles of drift space before we would drift into the leeward coast. I tried to fix the propeller from on the boat just by pulling on the sheets to see if I could get it fixed. So it happened in forward. That means the spinning to the right. Went down below, tried to turn the propeller shaft by hand. I threw it into reverse real quick to see if that would fix it. Didn't work, just killed the engine. And then I was like, well, it doesn't make any sense to get all wet and then fix the steering.
now this just broke.
Okay, I'm gonna fix the steering, and then I'll probably have to put on my wetsuit and go into the water. When I was in Thessaloniki, I had taken apart the quadrant to repack the stuffing box. So I was familiar with the way the steering mechanism worked, so it made fixing it significantly easier. I had to get creative with some of the stuff because I did not have all of the correct pieces. I had cable, but it was smaller cable, and I had to run that through the block, attach that to the quadrant, and then attach that to what is basically just a bike chain, and then tighten it all down and put the quadrant back together.
Oh, fuck.
In the middle of it, I dropped the chain down the binnacle, that was a huge pain. I ended up having to tape an Allen key to a pole and then hook a chain link with the Allen key and then pull it up.
Got a temporary fix on the steering. It took me, I don't know, maybe an hour, 45 minutes, 30 minutes. The propeller is still wrapped with the genoa sheet, so I need to figure that out. Luckily, I've got a real great wetsuit and mask, so I'm gonna hop in, take a look, assess the situation, then fix it, and then get down to Patra to pick up Willem.
So I put on my wetsuit, I climbed down the swim ladder and held onto the swim ladder and made sure I always had one point of contact with the boat, and then held my breath and unwrapped the propeller. Luckily, I've wrapped the propeller about 6 different times, so I knew what I was doing. Was able to get it all unwrapped, and then everything was Gucci.
We're back in business. Sweet.
Perfect timing. There was zero traffic, and now there's a big tanker coming this way. So it's a good thing everything's sorted now and we're back sailing, and have a temporary fix on the steering wires. I'll have to take that apart and replace those again with heavier wires, but this was a temporary solution. Sometimes I think what society needs is more problems that people have to deal with their hands. In order to keep mentally healthy, you have to overcome problems, I think, in the material world, because when you solve a problem with your hands, you get the gratification of actually seeing the progress right in front of you and actually feeling like you did something. Rather, when everything is abstract, you don't get the gratification and the payoff. And that, I think, is why van life and that tiny house movement is so popular, because people are solving problems with their hands, whether it's gathering water or whatever. When you have a digital job, you have to construct your life in a way so that you get that gratification somehow.
If we go to the left with the wheel here, it's pulling the cable through, right?
Taking care of yourself adds value to your own life. You prove your worth to yourself. Being self-sufficient is gratifying in and of itself. I'm going to take care of myself, and I'm going to contribute to society, and so I'm going to have a net positive impact on the world.
All right, there we go. So we'll check that is the length that we want it.
The more responsibility you have, it's harder and it's a heavier weight to bear, but it makes life more meaningful.
There we go.
Got it done. Replaced both cables. Steering put back together. good to go for another couple years with that.